probably 2 slides today, which will clear up hopefully all the confusion that we had about the different right-to-work states and everything else. And then we're going to watch a film about the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. So that's your reward for being here today. We're going to do something a little less laborious. Guys, just a reminder that and again, that's the 25th this is due. I changed it in the assignment, but not on the slide. I'm asking you to tell me about whether or not you can be legally required to join a union. And I'm going to cover this today. So let's look at this. You're interested in working in a small plant that manufactures cell phone cases in Altoona. The employees are represented by the Glass, Molders, Pottery, Plastics, and Allied Workers International Union. Please answer the following questions. Can you be legally required to join a union? If given a choice, would you? And do you think it's fair to require employees to join a union? We're not going to cover questions 2 and 3, but we are going to cover question 1. Guys, question 1. Is Pennsylvania a right-to-work state? It is not. So you can have union shops. So that's the first answer to that question. So you can actually be required to pay union dues in the state of Pennsylvania. Here's the kind of the non-answer to that. We're going to cover that in the next slide. I have a chart for you guys that will make sense of all this, and I'm going to email it to you. Guys, if you choose under the Beck objection to say you do not want to be a member of a labor union, you can choose to do that. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
After we're done with the recording, remind me we have a couple bonus questions we're going to talk about. But guys, in terms of the way this works, you can be required to pay union dues, and you can be required to be represented by a collective bargaining agreement. You can choose to say we are not going to be technically members of the union, but on paper, you're still a member of the union. So the answer is, in Pennsylvania, you can be required to be, on paper, a member of a union. Yes?
They can legally make temporary workers part of the union too, right?
That's a question I don't know the answer to. I'll have to go back and refresh my labor law there. If it were a right-to-work state, absolutely not. And I think that from my knowledge of that particular topic, I think you probably could require temporary workers, but they would have to be hired before they could be in the union. You cannot require somebody in any state to be a member of a labor union before they're hired. That all makes sense so far, guys. Okay. I want to make sure the distinctions are clear. And we're going to cover those distinctions very briefly here. Okay, if you've got a closed shop, technically the word, if you ever intersperse the term closed shop and union shop, I'm not going to slam you points for it. But here's the distinction between the two. A closed shop was a term that existed in the 1940s and before that meant that you had to be a member of a union before you could get hired. Technically, closed shops are illegal, but the word closed shop often is associated with union shop. So if you call a union shop a closed shop, I'm not going to correct you on that. And I'm not going to give you a question that requires you to split hairs on those two terms. If you are in a union shop, that means that you have to be a member of the union once you are hired. If you are in a right-to-work state, that is illegal. In a non-right-to-work state, it is perfectly legal. So in Pennsylvania, you can be required to pay union dues. With me so far, guys? Okay. Let's draw some distinctions here. The Beck rights were basically a statute that came before the Supreme Court, and basically here's what it states. If you are in a non-right-to-work state, you still can be required to pay union dues. However, you can choose to know where your dues are going, and you can choose not to pay for things like state-level lobbying or marketing. You can say, as a member of the union, that you want to pay only for collective bargaining, so your contract and your grievance process. And what we refer to, this is called your financial core member. You can technically say, I'm not in the union. Really, you're still in the union because you're paying dues, you're supporting financially. But if you choose, you can say basically, I want to know where my money is going. If you're in a right-to-work state, under no circumstance can you be forced to pay union dues or be a member of a labor union. Does that all make sense, guys? What questions do you have? I want to make sure this is clear because I felt like Wednesday, I was moving too fast and I wanted to make sure this stuff was clear with you. questions do you have? So let's play the game one more time with the previous question. Will somebody look up on their computer a list of right to work states? Yes.
I have a question. So you said you choose where your dues go. What if you don't choose? Do they just automatically go to one day?
Yeah, here's the way it works. Let's say, for example, you're in a collective bargaining agreement, so you're covered by a union, and you don't question where your dues go. The union still has to document where they go, but you have no real say in the matter other than they're taken out of your paycheck and the union is spending them as they see fit. Now, under Beck rights, if you choose to, you can say that I'm saying my dues are only going to go to bargaining and only going to grievance. What that's saying is the person who's a member of the labor union is choosing to only allow their money that's coming out of their check to benefit things that benefit them. That makes sense? Yes, ma'am. It varies. Some groups you might be paying $10 or $12 a paycheck. Some it's a higher percentage. It varies greatly from one union to the next. Generally speaking, the more you make, the more you pay. Yes.
I forgot to ask, are you? You may have said this. Are you in a union?
I'm not. No, and we don't have a teachers union here at St. Francis. My wife is a member of a labor union. She's a member of Service Employees International (SEIU), and I think that's the right description for what that acronym stands for. They're generally in like the cleaning industries, but nurses are a member of that union too. So she's a registered nurse. Most registered nurses at Altoona Hospital are members of that union, and even the ones who don't choose membership technically are still members because they're covered by the same collective bargaining agreement. Yes?
So, I forgot how I want to phrase the question. So you use the example of your wife and you don't have to be a part of the union, but you're still covered by the same collective bargaining agreement. Is that like the same Beck rights in a right to work state?
Let's draw some distinctions. And the way it works with Beck rights in a non-right to work state, which is what we're in Pennsylvania. So she can basically say, I choose to not have my dues pay for the following activities. I only want them to go toward collective bargaining and grievance procedures. She could choose to say any other lobbying, I don't want my money going to any of this stuff. The difference in a right to work state, all those things are still in place. But the next level of protection in a right to work state, you can say, I don't want to be in the union at all, and I'm not paying dues. And so, yeah, you basically can still do that. Now, here's the trick that we didn't talk about. In a right to work state, you may still be covered by the same collective bargaining agreement, or you may negotiate your own agreement. In fact, that's the biggest argument that people make. Why do employers like right to work states? If you're an employer, why would you like a right to work state? Any thoughts? Yes?
Not having a union makes it easier to hire people and also to fire them in case you kind of need to change your staffing.
And there's no collective bargaining, so technically a lot of folks are paid less in right to work states than they are in non-right to work states. So that makes sense. And it's funny because the folks who, when I say this, I don't have a bias either way. I think there are benefits to unions, and I think there are problems with unions too, bless you. But I think generally speaking, the way that that's been packaged, a right to work state, doesn't that sound positive? Like, where are you? I'm in a right to work state. I have the right to work as much as I want. Kind of like when I pay that privilege tax in Altoona. Like, I literally pay a privilege to live in Altoona tax. Why can't they be honest about it and say because we can tax, or because your mayor is a jerk tax, or something? No, it's like when you buy tickets from Ticketmaster. It's a convenience charge. Who's this convenient for? It's convenient for you. You're selling the tickets. It's not convenient for me. Or what is it? Screech said, it's not convenient. It's not fair. Picking a man in his pocket every 25th of December. Blah! You know. So anyway, does this all make sense, guys? Okay. What questions do you have before we move on? Ma'am.
So you said your wife is in a union, but like the place she works is people that aren't in that union, right?
Let's make sure this distinction is correct, though. Because it is Pennsylvania, and it is a right, not a right to work state. So the people who she works with can choose to say, I'm not going to be in the union. technically they are still in the union because they're still covered by the collective bargaining agreement. So this is where the ambiguity comes in. In a non-right to work state, you can step away from the union and say, I'm not coming to your meetings, I'm not represented by you. We can say all those things, but you still got to pay union dues in a union shop.
Are those people that think like frowned upon?
I'm sorry?
Do you think the people are frowned upon that don't support it?
I think there's some politics like that. Let's say, for example, all of us in here decided we're forming a union, and you guys all get together, you organize, you're spending all this time outside of, away from your families, you're doing all these things, and I say to you guys, I'm not really into this union thing, you guys go. Well, all of a sudden, you guys negotiate this killer contract, and we all get a $2 an hour raise, and you guys all worked your butts off to get it. I'm getting the same raise, even though I didn't do anything. How are you guys going to feel about me? You going to sit with me at lunch? You going to invite me to your keg parties? Probably not. I'm going to be lonely on Friday nights, watching Netflix by myself, eating Cheetos in my bathrobe with my dog, because nobody here's going to want to hang out with me. So it does happen. In some places, though, people are very quiet about whether or not they're in the union. So it depends. Other questions? Yes?
So, in Pennsylvania, say St. Francis started a union, so would it automatically just like everyone would be technically be in the union?
We're going to get into the governance kind of stuff, and technically, here's what happens when people organize. They have basically a ballot to determine if they want to join a union or form their own collective bargaining, and it has to be by a specific percentage. You have to have a majority of votes. And here's the deal. Let's say, for example, all of us here, let's pick a profession. Let's say we're all carpenters here at St. Francis. And we decide we want to be represented by an international carpenters union. And we have a ballot that's supervised by the National Labor Relations Board, and 55% of us decide we want to be part of the union. Well, guess what? We're all covered by the union. Whether or not you voted for it, you're in. And that's why people need to take elections seriously. And people have varying opinions on that stuff. So it's very important to be actively engaged. Yes?
Is it usually through legislation that a state decides if it wants to be a non-right to work state? Or do they do like referendums?
I think most of this stuff is decided on, don't quote me on this because I need to research the history of this too. I think it shows up on a ballot essentially. So you do have to vote on it. But I think a lot of state level lobbying happens here, and I think a lot of it is culturally based. Yes?
One of our teachers was telling us that it's voted on by people.
You mean in terms of being a right to work state?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does end up on a ballot. And, I think it's a smart thing to do, too, in terms of letting the people decide. I can see both sides of it. On one hand, I believe in free will, and I believe people should be able to represent themselves if they do. For example, if you guys all join a club, and I'm in with you and I don't like your club, I don't feel like I should have to pay into your club. The flip side is the people who do get covered as free riders, especially in right-to-work states who are covered by a collective bargaining agreement, sometimes pay no dues at all and still get the benefits. So, you guys are asking good questions. What other questions do you have? Going once. Going twice. Let me stop this recording, guys, because we're going to watch a film together.